Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I'm out here in the garage for another garage gun talk. And I guess tonight it's going to be more about answering a couple of questions I got in last night's video. Just want to give you an update of what I'm doing out here tonight. I filmed the garage portion of a range report on the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Spec Series pistol. I was able to get this thing back to the range for a second time. I think in a previous video I talked about how I had some problems with the sights. The red dot sight kept getting filthy because it has a loaded chamber indicator here, and the front sight was completely off. Took it back to the range, had a pretty good time with it, but I filmed a very long range report. I mean, the range report on this one is like 35 minutes long. I talked a lot on that one, and you guys sometimes criticize me of being a little bit long-winded, but that one is definitely going to be a little bit long-winded. But I did want to answer a couple of questions I got in yesterday's video, because I always say if you have any questions about anything, you want to know about guns or the Texas Gun Vault or whatever, ask away. And I got two questions last night, and one dealt with ammunition and 30 Super Carry. You guys know what the caliber is. It came out, a couple years ago, and it came out to all this fanfare. Everyone was saying, oh, it's better than 9mm, and you get more capacity, and so forth. You know, in the music world, where I spend my professional life, I see trends and things come and go. And I guess I've been around long enough. I know I kind of sound like I'm one of the old timers, that I tell my students and my colleagues, whenever something new, a new gizmo, a new gadget comes out in the world of instruments, and I play trombone, I tell them, I know it's a fad right now. Everyone's buying it. It's the cool new hot thing. There's a reason why the things that are standardized have been around for so long. Yes, once in a while you'll have something that is truly innovative, that is a game changer. But those things are very few and far between. They're extremely rare. And it's very easy to, when something new and exciting comes out, for everyone just to jump on the bandwagon. And a lot of times when it comes to new calibers, this is the way it is. And I stayed away from 30 Super Carry when it came out. Everyone was talking about it. Oh, it's going to be amazing, awesome. But I'm looking at, for example, 9mm. I understand that certain calibers will always have their detractors, okay? And everybody can laugh about, 45, some people call it 45 AARP, instead of ACP, because it's old, and the old timers shoot it in 1911s, or they'll joke on the other end of that, 45, I carry 45 because they don't make a 46, or they talk about 9mm or whatever. But there's a reason why the calibers that we typically carry, the most predominant calibers in handguns, have been around for so long. I mean, let's just talk about it. The two biggest in the room is 9mm and 45, okay? Those are the most firearms in the United States, pistols, semi-automatic pistols, are chambered in one of those two calibers. Now, I know there's 40 Smith & Wesson, but we all know that one for a while has been kind of on the downhill, the downslope of popularity. It might have a little bit of resurgence now, but for the most part, what do we shoot? 9mm and 45, okay? 9mm came out, I believe it was designed as a proprietary cartridge by Georg Luger in 1902, okay? And of course, it became popular in the P07, toggle locking pistol, right? A Luger pistol, and that came out in 07. But I think the cartridge was designed in 1902 is what I think. But it was in that first decade of the 20th century. And same thing goes with 45 ACP. It was first introduced in the Colt M1905, and it was developed in 1905. Of course, at the behest of the United States military wanting to go to a 45 caliber projectile to replace the 38. I think they called it 38 long Colt. I forgot what the actual cartridge was called in the M1892 revolvers, and they were wanting to go to that. And those have been standardized ever since. Yes, we've had changes in ballistic technology, projectiles, powders, that type of stuff. But those two cartridges, one is 45 caliber, one is essentially 35 caliber. I think it's .355 is the actual diameter of 9mm. It's remained unchanged. We can all admit that there's a pro and con to both calibers, but that's just what has developed. And it's like the B-52 bomber. You know, we've been flying those things. Those airframes now are 60, 70 years old, and we're going to keep flying them for another 20 years because they just work. We don't have anything that's better as a heavy strategic bomber. Same thing goes with 9mm and 45. You know, there are just some things that they're just not going to improve upon anytime soon. That just, we've reached peak caliber, if that makes any sense. I think it's great we have 357 SIG. I love 357 SIG. It's probably my favorite semi-automatic handgun caliber. But it's not gonna catch on. It's not gonna replace 9. 40, you know, it's the great balance between 45 and 9. You know, we've had all these other calibers, things that are smaller than 9 and weaker than 9. We've had 32 and 38 and 380, all this stuff. But we always go back to 9 and 45 because the entire industry, not only are those very effective calibers, they have an entire industry built around them. When you look at, for example, 9mm, and I'm just going to throw out a number here. I would have to estimate, just if you go to a gun shop, what would you say? 60, 70% of all semi-automatic pistols are chambered in 9mm? I mean, it's going to be a crazy high number. So you have people that are professional shooters, militaries, police forces, average gun people, people that just own one gun. And this is the caliber that they own. An entire industry, the entire semi-automatic pistol world revolves around that caliber. And so to have a shift away from that is like trying to move a mountain because it works. There's no problem with it. All the tooling is there for the manufacturers to produce the ammunition. And there's so many firearms out there chambered in that caliber. You're just not going to get anything to change. And that is just the way it is. It's, as I said, like the B-52 bomber. It's just going to be around. I mean, it will eventually be retired. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And the calibers, I think as long as we use brass-cased ammunition, we're going to be using 9mm probably for the foreseeable 100 years from now. Same thing with 45. 45 is not going anywhere. 9 is not going anywhere. All the other calibers are just going to kind of lag behind. So that's what I think about 30 Super Carry. It was a good idea. I think it's cool in theory. In practice, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work, and that's what happens. And I knew to avoid the caliber, I wasn't going to buy any guns in that caliber, and I feel sorry for people that bought guns in that caliber because I don't see any on the shelf. I'm not saying you can't order it, you can't get it, but there it is. I mean, other calibers were released to bigger fanfare, 40, 357 SIG, you name it. But that's my thoughts on 30 Super Carry. And then the other question I got, and I'm sorry I don't remember exactly who asked this. Somebody asked me, do my hobbies and my things get in the way of my wife? Because we have, obviously firearms is a huge passion of mine. I talk about things like amateur radio. I'm a professional musician. And does it ever get in the way of my wife and her interests and that kind of stuff and so forth? And the answer is no. And I am hands down, and I know a lot of people say this, okay, about their marriages and their wives, okay? And a lot of them have to say it about their marriages and their wives. But I am being very honest when I tell you that I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I cannot express in words how fortunate I am. When I first spoke with my wife, it was actually originally over Facebook Messenger because, little story, she hired me to teach her son music lessons, who's now my son, and he's in college. But when she and I were talking, and I was trying to kind of figure out, of course I was interested in her and this and that, I was trying to kind of figure out what her interests were, and I'm sure she kind of Facebook stalked me a little bit. And she saw that I was into guns and this kind of thing. I had a few gun posts on my personal Facebook. And then she sent me some pictures of her with guns. And she was into it. Obviously not like I was, but, she had an AR-15. She had some pistols. She had some pictures of her with other guns. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Obviously, she's not anti-gun, And the other thing was Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Star Wars is just... I love Star Wars. Not the Disney Star Wars. They have ruined it with all the social justice BS. I'm talking about old school George Lucas Star Wars. And she sent me a couple of pictures of her wearing like Star Wars shirts and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of knew I wanted to pursue this. But I'll tell you a funny story is while my wife did know something about guns, it does like guns. She only knew a little bit about Star Wars. She lied to me about that. Because one night we were laying in bed, and I think I showed her some Star Wars meme or something, and I made a joke about the high ground. And, of course, if you're a Star Wars fan, you know about the high ground. And she looked at me and goes, "What's the high ground?" And it was at that point I knew she lied to me about Star Wars. She knew the basics, but she didn't know it deep. But... I had to explain all of that to her. But no, as I said, I hit the jackpot in my life. My wife and I have never had a single argument. And I know some people are like, what? I mean, we have never had an argument. Ever. We've never had a fight. We've never had an argument. None of that. Just we see the world in exactly the same way. Our political philosophies, our... life philosophies, and she is a very different person than I am. I'm an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs Personality Type Indicator. She is an ENFP, which is very different, but her strengths are my weaknesses, and my strengths are her weaknesses, and so we complement each other, and we help each other out in like social situations where I'm very much an analytical thinker. And I help her see and solve problems from that perspective. And then I am very weak when it comes to understanding feelings, and she's a very strong feeler. And everything in our life is just amazing and awesome. And we've never had an argument or disagreement or any of that. And we just go on amazing adventures in life. And it has been just one amazing story. I always kind of joke that if I wrote an autobiography of my life, nobody would believe it. But it really has been kind of a fairy tale, and I've done some amazing things and seen some amazing things, and my wife is a huge part of that. And I can't express into words how blessed I am. But to go back to the original question, I have guns out. I got projects everywhere. My wife doesn't care. Some guys joke that if you always see those memes online about, oh my gosh, I bought a gun, or was it, don't tell my wife to sell the guns if something happens to me for what I told her I paid for. I actually tell her what I pay for them, and she's totally fine. Sometimes I'll go to the store and I'll come back and I haven't bought anything. She's like, "What? You didn't buy a gun?" That kind of stuff. Or she might not be into amateur radio like I am, but she completely supports me. I got radios all over the place. I got antennas up on top of the house and on the fence. That kind of stuff. Right now, I'm into watches. I got watches everywhere. I'm just so blessed. And so while she might laugh at some of my hobbies and interests, it doesn't really get in the way, and hers don't get in the way of mine. She likes to craft. She likes to do like coloring. We do Legos together. We love Legos. We go to the Lego store probably about once a month and get a few things. I got the huge set, all the Star Wars sets, and all the I call them the adult sets, like the Cars and the Titanic and all that. So we like to share that. So to answer the question, do I ever get on my wife's bad side by having all this stuff all over the place? The answer is No, she is the most supportive human being ever, and I am blessed beyond my wildest dreams in so many ways. So I hope that answers that question. So what are my thoughts on 30 Super Carry, and does the Texas gun vault and the gun vaulting process get in the way and bug my wife? So there you go, and the answer is no. So I hope that answers some questions. Once again, if you have any questions that you guys want to know about, let me know. And I can't wait for you guys to see the range report on this really cool pistol that Jack lent to the channel. So thank you, Jack, number one. I'll be getting this cleaned up, and I do have to do a field strip video on this. This is a very easy gun to field strip, but because it has this compensator, I want to talk about that and kind of make a dedicated video on it. So I'll make a quick field strip on this, clean it up, and get the two guns he lent back to him. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. Thanks for joining me here in the garage. And if you watch to the end of this video, what's the word of the day? The word of the day is blessed. Because Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, I promise you, is the most blessed human being on the face of the earth. And I know some of you guys are saying you are too. But I really am. Things I can't tell you here. I'm just telling you, my whole life in aggregate has just been a blessing. It's just been absolutely amazing. So blessed is the word of the day. And let me know if you have any other questions. I'll be happy to answer them. But I got to get this gun ready for a field strip video, which I'll probably film tomorrow. Get inside, upload the range report, and go to bed. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for joining me here in the garage. And as always, thanks for watching.